The following podcast is a Dear Media production.
Last meal. That's it. That's crazy though. That last meal.
Yo. We are back. I am Chef Elisa Reynolds, and this is My Last Meal Podcast. And today, again, one more incredible guest I happen to have today. This man is actually a local. He is a food expert, which I love. This man has been on everything from Ellen, The View, Good Morning America. He is a Mexican-American. Yes. He's an author, and he loves food. If you don't know who I'm talking about the one and only John Kanell. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I love that.
I'm so excited to just talk food and talk about the young John. How'd you even get into food and some of those childhood memories, and I want to talk about the book because I've looked at it and it is gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
It is absolutely gorgeous. Let me ask you, because it is early right now, what's the last thing you ate before coming on this podcast?
Oh my gosh, I had a bowl full of cashews. I was so hungry. But they were, I roasted them myself and they were delicious.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Now I see here that you are from the West Coast, but you just moved back. Is that what it is? Or
so I'm from Los Angeles, so is my husband, and we moved to Connecticut. So now we're on our farm, Hedge Hill Farm out here in the beautiful Litchfield Hills.
Amazing. So you moved away. You left us.
I did. I come back to visit. I'm coming back for the book tour as well, so I'll be here again.
Okay. Because I want to check out that book, and I want to come to one of your dates on that. So tell me, how is everything? You got the family, you got the husband, you got the kids, and how old are your boys?
I have 5-year-old twin boys, Lachlan and George, the apple of my eye, and they keep me busy.
Oh, my goodness, 5 years old. That's a lot of energy.
It's a good age.
It's past the terrible twos, but that cute stage before they get,
I'm soaking it all in.
Grown and, yes. Well, how long have you been in Connecticut? When did you guys move? And tell me a little bit about that transition, and how are you loving it?
We moved out just over 3 years ago, and yeah,
right before COVID?
Right before COVID, we timed it right. Or wrong, I don't know.
Wow. That was perfect.
It really was. So we were on kind of like out here and kind of enjoying what we could. We both wanted the kids to have that connection to food and nature, and to be able to see animals, to grow their own food. We have our own bees, so when we eat honey, they know that it's the honey that our bees made, and everything has a nice connection.
This is beautiful, but also getting them early, because that's the thing is that we are all adults, and it's too late for us. Not too late, but you know what I'm saying.
I know.
In order to change the future, you have to start with a 5-year-old today.
Yes.
It's important. And to reconnect those connections to the earth that these last 2 generations have basically, left or not in touch as much as they should be. And I've always said the next generation are the kids that are under 10 that are going to save us all. So this is great.
I love food is one of those tangible moments where you're connected back to nature, if only for a moment. And when we're preparing something, it's with our hands. We're getting our hands dirty. There's so many lessons in the kitchen for our kids. I love bringing my boys out and just showing them the steps. I'm a former math and science teacher, so I'm always trying to. I'm saving all the big lessons for them, but I'm keeping them in a memory box. And it's we're not on a device, we're not on a phone or a screen. We're there and we're present, and there's a tangible outcome. We're making something delicious for the people who come to our table, and they're coming with love. We're making it with love, and it's really the most special time for me.
Well, it's great too because, a lot of people as chefs, they're like, oh, they'll imagine a dish, but they don't imagine where it comes from. And those processes that these, on a young level that you see from the ground to the cleaning, to the washing off, to the cutting, to the saute, to the finished product to your plate is such a beautiful process to learn as a kid because it just gives you that much more connection. It connects you back to the earth and you look around differently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just your bees you were talking about. That makes someone at 5 years old grow up understanding that the bees die, we die. The beautiful thing about the queen. And I mean, we had a beehive recently removed at my parents' house that had been there for 19 years.
Oh, wow.
It was huge and my mom wept. It was the most beautiful thing in terms of like their connection. And how we just take them for granted and don't think about it. But it is so deep with the queen. And we wept. We had our honey, but like a couple of them didn't make the box.
Yeah.
And the bees were just still, right? Until that one bee came to the side of the box and they were all like, Harry, you're late.
Yeah.
Now you always come late. What are you? And he was like, and they were like, and they were like, we told you 5 o'clock. They gave you another time. They gave you the day. It's just so wild.
Well, they're so magical to watch because you stand outside of a hive and they have a whole system. Everything is like a beautiful dance. It literally is a beautiful dance. And they're just making this magical thing. Last summer we had a bumblebee hive and they can nest in trees or in the ground. And they were right outside our front steps. And I would just sit on the front steps and take some time to watch them fly in and out. And it was so
unbelievable,
beautiful and like centering. And I love bumblebees. But, it's such a nice moment to have. And the kids were able to share. So like we have our apple trees and pear trees. And when they're in blossom, the kids love to come out and see all the different kinds of bees do their work. The tiny little sweat bees, the honey bees, the bumblebees, everyone's there.
This is crazy. And again, I don't even know if people understand there are different types of bees. And I also don't, to teach a child, I think that's the best thing ever, John. I'm so jealous of the twins right now. Because just to grow up and understand bees, you can understand life. Bees go and work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And but they love each other. They're this community that is here to save the world, that keeps us safe, actually. We talk about, the war on terror. The bees are keeping us alive, okay? And, just as a kid, I would imagine just to understand, because a lot of us grow up in cities to where you want to destroy a bee or kill the bee. You're not even thinking that this connection is the connection to all of us. That coupled with the farm, the food. I'm excited I want to meet these boys when they're 20, please. It's great.
Hey guys, I'm Kinsey from the I Love You So Much podcast. On my show, we talk about everything lifestyle, business, finance, beauty, you name it. My favorite part about the show is the amazing guests that we bring on. We have everyone ranging from like business experts to influencers, CEOs, creative masterminds. It's so much fun. If you guys want to find me on Instagram, and it's just at Kinsey Elizabeth. I release new episodes every Thursday, so hope to see you there.
So you guys been there for 3 years. Had you ever lived on the East Coast before?
Brian and I had lived in New York on and off for a little bit. Mm-hmm. I can't say it was full time though, because like in the winter we'd be in LA for a little bit longer.
Right.
And we did fall in love with this area where we ended up moving, but we just thought it would be like our one day place. You have those one day plans. Like when I'm old and gray, and I'll live a different
one day,
life.
Your bucket list.
Mm-hmm. And we moved back to LA and we were raising our kids and we had our life and it wasn't bad, but we were thinking like, what do we really want for them? What do we really want for us? And we wanted them to have that connection with nature and the seasons and the food and the animals. And we decided that one day had to be today.
Do you guys have animals too?
We do. We have the little Nigerian dwarf goats and the chickens.
What? I love a goat.
Goats are so sweet. I wish everyone had goats. They're like really gentle, wonderful creatures.
they're amazing. I mean, you go to Jamaica and everyone has one in their front yard. It's so wild. Like, the goats are just running around and people are like this. Yeah, man, the goats, they love them.
They're easy.
Like,
They're easy animals to take care of,
they're
too.
easy. Yo. So, God, there's so much. My brain is exploding right now because I think this is so fascinating. And I think about choices in life, you know, and being able to live out these things that are always in the back of our minds. Just like you said, that's closer to a bucket list. Oh, we're going to do that when we retire. Let's do this then. You know what I mean? And sometimes people are afraid to leave the city because they're like, well, what are we going to do? But, you know, it seems like you guys are pretty occupied out there.
Oh, you learn so much. I mean, on the West Coast, we have like fires and earthquakes and, you know, the big stuff. On the East Coast, nature is constantly needling you and trying to take everything apart. So, like, having a well, having a septic system, just, you know, having like heating oil, like all of it was new to us, and we learned everything the hard way, but I think we have it pretty down pat now.
Of course you did.
So,
of course you
know,
did.
those hard lessons you learn are the ones you remember the best.
100%. And you're not afraid to tell others, so then they won't, you know, end up learning in reverse.
That's what my YouTube channel is all about. Is like, I'm not a perfect person in the kitchen, and like I make mistakes all the time and learn things the hard way. And one of the things I love about like the YouTube is the format gives you that time to really share all those details. And there's different kinds of learners. Some people like love listening to instructions. You give me instructions verbally. I'm like passing out after the first 5 words. I can't handle it. I just see it.
Right.
So it like lets you engage different kinds of learners. You can give them all the ins and outs. And I'm never going to edit out a mistake. Like, oops, I forgot to add the sugar.
Exactly.
You can still edit it. There's just enough time. You know, like we're all real, and food is a time to have fun and experiment. But people aren't going to be perfect in the kitchen, and it's not about that.
Well, some of the best things were created out of mistakes. I always say, like, some of the times when you're forced to be creative because you forgot to put something in, or, you know, you deconstruct something on accident and you're like, wow, I just made a masterpiece. Baking, not so much. That is exact.
It's exact, but you always have some play. And, you know, like my mom, who I'm a mom-taught chef, she's one of those ladies who would just throw things into a pot or a mixer, never measures anything, and she prides herself on it, which I thought was horrible to get like a family recipe. And she's like, I just do it. I'm like, no, I want to tell people about this.
That's us too. I know. It's like, you know, you're sounding like soul food now. Like everything is passed down. No one, they're like, till it tastes right. Yeah. I'm like, how much is that? You know.
She's like, half a teaspoon plus salt to taste.
Yeah, exactly. Or I don't know how much I put, but you know, just put it. Yeah. And you're like, So mom was the one that you got this cooking bug from.
Yeah, you know, my mom came from Mexico, and the short story is that like she was young and her dad would not let her go to school. So like she wanted to continue her education. He's like, nope, that's not for you. Right. So she ran away from home and like started a new life. And
no way.
She eventually like had my brother and I. She had a family, and she went to night school and got her high school diploma. She put herself through college. Amazing. She ended up getting her doctoral degree in education.
Damn.
Retired. She was became a teacher, retired. And
amazing.
I got my love of education from her, but from Mexico, she brought this love of like fresh ingredients and coming around the table and like making everything from scratch. So I really took that love. And my mom also, she came to the U.S. with wide open eyes. Everything was, all these experiences and things that we take for granted were new to her. So like immigrants see our country from a different perspective. And
absolutely,
I always say that she really like explored the world through her kitchen. So she fell in love with all the different cuisines that we have here. And like she loved Julia Child and her insouciance and how she had like said anything is possible and like you can make mistakes too. And she loves French cuisine. She loves Italian cuisine. She loves like Middle Eastern, like everywhere she is like a sponge. And as she experimented and played with flavors, I got to be with her in the kitchen, helping her and learning from her.
This is incredible. So that takes me to one of my first questions is, what are some of the dishes from your childhood memory that are most fond before you left? You know, we're talking about your boy's age? You know, what are some of the things that she made that you remember right this second when you think of those times?
There's two, like, you know, like when you're a child and you're sick and you're like, your mom comes to the rescue with those delicious things.
Always.
So there's two things that she made, and one of them is in the book. The first one, we always grew lemongrass in our garden, and she would just cut some lemongrass, boil it for a really simple tea with some honey, and that is like manna from heaven. It is so good. It's like just, it's so amazing.
Good. Yeah.
And then the other one is an avoco lemino, which is a Greek, like, lemony chicken soup. It like literally translates to like egg lemon soup. And it's like what you want when you're sick. It's like the best. Everyone has the best chicken soup, but it's like the Greek,
right, exactly.
the best chicken soup. It's like a lemony. It has the creaminess to it, but there's no dairy in it to congest you.
Yeah.
Full of chicken, you add your fresh herbs, and that was something that she found through my dad's side of the family, and we all loved it, and I had to like share it in the book too.
That is amazing. Now, your dad is Greek, is this correct?
So he was Greek and French Canadian, so there was...
Amazing, but whoa, your household foods must have been, it's just amazing.
It was a really cool melting pot.
All of the, yeah. And then you have mom, like you said, coming from Mexico, that everything was made from scratch as a norm. You know, things that are just pulled from the backyard are norms. You know, making teas. You know, the other day in the kitchen, I have my Mexican cook was making. I walk in and I'm like, what are you making? It's just it's a pot, and it's boiled garlic, onion, lemon, orange, and like a beet was in there. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And, you know, and he's like, oh, it's tea. And I just love it. He's like, my grandmother used to make this for me. You know, he had a scratchy throat or something. And I just like, I love these things that we carry on and these traditions that never leave us. And he goes, it takes me back to when I was a little boy. And he's like, I just, you know, instead of going in there and getting some chamomile or whatever, he's like, I just wanted to make something that, he's like, I think this will heal me because it makes me think of my grandmother. But these are the qualities of food, and what food transcends our emotions. You know what I mean? When we think of like your mom and you think of those things when you were sick, these are healing qualities that come through food, and food transcends love in so many ways, especially when you're young. You remember these things. And I just want to know, when you left home as a young man, what were some of the dishes that you learned from your mom that you remember early on in your early 20s? Did you move to New York you went to UCLA?
I went to UCLA. I actually lived in Pasadena afterwards, and I was a teacher too. Okay. So I got to visit her frequently.
Nice. You're like, I'm on my way, Mom.
I know. We had Sunday dinners together still. I took some of her dinner party things. You know, in the 1970s, which I think is her formative time, there was a whole dinner party moment happening.
Oh my God. We used to have all the books.
Yes.
When I was younger, I would look at what is all this? And that's when it was all about hors d'oeuvres and everything came up.
She had this set of books.
Talk to me.
It was an encyclopedia of cooking books. I think it was Bon Appetit, but I have to double check. And it would be how to make this, but it starts with start by boiling the cow hooves, because you're going to make the gelatin from scratch to do this, and then it eventually became a Jello. So it was I was obsessed with those books. Oh my God, it was so cool.
And a lot of times they would draw the food. Yes. It wouldn't be, or the pictures were low quality.
Oh my gosh! The photography in food has come a long way.
Yes.
I love the illustrations. I actually love the vintage photography too, but she had a dish from my paternal grandmother's side that she would make for New Year's. It was a canard à l'orange, duck à l'orange, which is very 70s chic. And I loved making it because it brought back all those memories of celebrating the seasons and being together. And there's another one, which is really simple. They're called polvorones. They're Mexican wedding cookies. But I love this recipe so much because it is a universal cookie. You could give this cookie to anybody from around the world, and their culture makes it. So, in Greece, they're curambieres.
Oh, wow.
It's the same cookie. It's, the same. In Indonesia, there's a version that uses, a slightly different, flavoring. They use rosewater sometimes. there's like around the world, they make these like little shortbread nut cookies rolled in powdered sugar.
Right.
And like sometimes in the
right,
US,
and they're small, right?
They're like this big. And
yeah.
So I loved that cookie, and I would make it.
Oh my God.
One, it was a holiday cookie that we had together, but it's like from both sides of my family. And then when I posted about it, I had people from around the world tell me, "Oh, we call those this here, and we use pistachios instead at our house, or we use this."
Way.
And like everyone had their own version of the cookie, and it really spoke to the universality of food and how we are all together in this. This is like, food is love. Food is a universal language, and it really is something that can just bring us together in a way that I find like so special.
Well, that's what I love about food, and that's what I love about it's, like you said, it's globalness. It literally travels, creates history, and never stops. You know what I mean? It's like people always, I was talking to some kids, and they were like, "Well, what do they eat in India?" And I'm like, "Well, most of the time around the world, there's a cow, there's a chicken, there's a pig. Usually, some cultures, but during, through their religion, may not eat one of those things, but there's always a basis of, I feel, that something that we eat now, we don't know how far it's come. And it's so intriguing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been working on this TV show, and there's like, we were on a reservation, and we were talking about corn and the three sisters, the corn, the bean, and the squash. And he's going on about how old these things were and how they grow around each other, and they protect each other, these three ingredients. They said cut. I look, and my makeup artist is bawling. I was like, what? She's like, it's so beautiful. And we have these in Mexico. And I said, well, there were no borders back then. So it was, there were no borders. Like, and it was wild for her to see all these indigenous people and her from Latin descent and just be so confused. But she's like, the food, they kind of look like, and I said, food is so powerful in this sense. You're eating something right now that you have no idea how it traveled, how it got there, and the stories are beautiful, and they bring us right back to each other, and we're connected through this history.
Yeah.
And it just keeps evolving, and it keeps evolving, and it's so crazy. I mean, literally, she was crying because the guy was telling the story of it, but she was like, it's in Mexico. And I was like, yeah, back then there was just land. There was no lines that said this is this. And sometimes food, we get cut off at the border, but we're not cutting off the dishes. You know what I mean? Because succotash is the same thing as the three sisters in indigenous, which is the same thing as, I forget the Spanish version name that she said of the same dish. And it's like we have the American, we have the indigenous, we have the Spanish, but it's the same three bean, squash, and corn.
I always think about
really
how
cool.
like the introduction and distribution of things like tomatoes and potatoes completely changed the food culture in different places. Like you think about Italy pre-tomato. What was it like?
What was it
or
like?
You read about ancient Romans and the food they ate, and you're like, gosh, something's missing. Like what's like there's like a lot of like umami flavors happening and everything else. And like, they didn't have all these things that happened through like,
they had an olive.
Yeah.
Okay. They had olive in a wheat.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a whole mountain in Rome. Like it's a whole hill. I forgot what it's called, made from the broken amphora that carried olive oil, because they didn't understand for a while how to transport olive oil. The amphora weren't lined on the inside, so they became rancid after X number of trips across the Mediterranean. They had to throw them away. There's a whole hill in Rome of just smashed amphora because they consumed so much. Yes.
Get out of here. That is so incredible.
Food is like so fascinating.
Exactly.
Or like,
well, yeah, like even thinking about pizza. How did you had, the Spanish brought the tomatoes. The Greeks brought the dough. I mean, they didn't have basil there. That came from India.
Yeah.
Buffalo mozzarella. It's all these things. It's just so intense.
Yeah, and like
how food travels and becomes a certain nationality's pride from all these things that can, I mean, think about it. People don't even realize the connection between the pasta noodle and China.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was reading about the history of apple bread because I was making an apple bread recipe, and I was like, where did this come from? Because it's like, you know, for us it's like cake, and it's fall, so I was like, I wanted to like just find out more. And it turns out like apple bread, of course, used to be yeasted because, you know, baking powder is not very old. And it was a thing of hardship because milled flour was so expensive that sometimes you cut the milled flour with like powdered potato, like for potato bread, or with like apple that had been like mushed up. And it would be a substitute. And it was like slightly sweet, not as good as normal bread, but it's like something people ate because they just it was out of necessity. And for us, it's a luxury. So it's interesting seeing how recipes change with like technology, with everything else. Of like,
or they change from necessity to delicacy. You know what I mean? Something that started because there was nothing else and we had to figure it out is some of the most creative ingenuity when it comes to food. And then taking that and then going and say through a French kitchen and then turning that on its head. It's like food and ingredients. It's like, once I said this, it's like playing the guitar. It's limitless. Yeah. Literally. There's things that are those same keys that are the basis to a lot of things, but you can play anything.
It's true.
And it's so good. So tell me about young John. What are some of the things when you were a single man, before a hubby, before all of this, and you have all of this great guidance from mom? Like, what were the kind of the things that you did as a younger, not that you're old, but I'm just saying, first leaving the house, you know, when we think we're grown and we're doing the thing. I mean, so tell me some of the places and some of the, where was your palate then?
I was such a nerd growing up. So like, and I had some foodie friends too. So like we would do our fun weekend projects. So like, let's make a tiramisu with crystallized pansies, stuff like that. Or like,
oh my gosh,
there's a picture of me looking so gawky and ridiculous. You know, like kids today look so cool with like, it's like they have the aesthetic down. I was not that. Like embarrassing looking John holding this chocolate cake with my mom.
I cannot even imagine.
I was at my tia's house, and it was like, I was so proud. I was beaming because I had made this cake, and it was like, it turned out really well. It was for like a family get together. But when I was out on my own, I was trying to recreate some of the things that I made with my mom. So things from my family history, like, can I do this on my own? Like, there's a Greek Easter bread called tsureki, and it's like challah, really, but it has a different spice profile. And in Greek Easter, there's a whole tradition. It's called tsugrisma, with red eggs. So, like, you have these red eggs, they're hard boiled, and you play a game at the table. So like you hold a hard boiled red egg, and the person next to you tries to smash it without smashing theirs. It's actually a really fun game.
Oh, really? So, that's fun. You got to play that with the kids.
Yes, like I tried to make the tsureki myself and like learn about like how to prove it properly and get the spices right. And like she had all these appetizers, like her stuffed mushroom caps were like simple and famous. Crazy. I would make these things for the teacher's lounge. So like we had like a rotating thing where
that's so like a potluck.
Yeah, like a potluck for snacks and things. And I would kind of like go all out and like try and make something really special because.
And they're like, oh God, we can't out top. John is bringing his mushroom caps.
They were excited. They were like, ooh, what are you making today?
They were. Yeah, they were like, bring it on, John.
Everyone else had like a Trader Joe's like crudité platter or something, and I was like, this is what I present.
Exactly. So, I've been slaving over this all night.
And I did it in my little apartment kitchen that was like, you know, I had like maybe 18 inches of counter space. So like, you know, you're spilling out onto the dining table. You're trying to like get everything together and.
Exactly.
But you make it work and it's really fun.
Oh my God. I love that. So what are some of your favorite restaurants when you were a young man? What do you remember the first dining experience that you went out and you were like, you know what? I am an adult. I am going to have an adult meal.
Oh.
Really? You're only like 20.
Okay. I actually do remember because going out to meals, I feel is so much more common now than it was a while ago. Like when I was growing up, it was like a special occasion to go to a restaurant.
It's very special.
And like my parents were not, you know, like they worked. They were not like rolling in dough or anything. So like that was like a luxury.
So it was special. Like my parents,
Yeah.
it was a luxury when we went out. It was a serious thing.
So, like with my grandparents, we would go like to this one restaurant. I think it was called like Marianella's or something like that. And it was like very fancy to me. When I graduated college as like my present, my mom took me to a restaurant that doesn't exist anymore, but it was in Los Angeles. It's called L'Orangerie. And I remember it was like it used to be like, it was like a very fancy old school French restaurant. So like I had to like find a jacket to put on. And I felt very out of place, but it was like so magical. And like, it was such a wonderful meal, and it was presented that beautiful French way, and you had the amuse-bouche and everything else, and it was like, I love this. I want to make food.
Yes, and that's what my next question is. When did you know, because now you're teaching, you're going into the teaching, when did you know that you were like, you know what, this food thing is calling me? You know what I mean?
I always loved food, and I love cooking and baking, and it really wasn't until my husband and I were planning on having a family. And like, with two husbands, it takes a little bit of planning. So we were thinking like, what do we want for these potential kids that we're going to have? And he worked in the entertainment industry and was super busy, like long, hectic days.
And I hate to interrupt you really quick, but I have to say this. That's the best thing one of the best things about having two husbands. Parents out there, heterosexuals, plan, okay? They do some planning.
You got to plan.
So you got to plan, and that's the beauty of it. I
was a teacher. I had time off, but like I couldn't come in at 11 and say, I wanted to be with the kids a bit longer. I'll work late. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to show up early, you stay late, and you get vacation time, but it's scheduled. So my husband was like, you're a great teacher. I wanted to spend time with these kids if we were going to have them. Like someone had to be there. And he's like, you're a great teacher. You love food. Why don't you like put those together and like do a food blog and like share your passion? And he really like encouraged me to like make that pivot and spread my wings. And
that's what they call them, the better half.
It's true. He really is. I could not have done it myself. And it was his like,
you needed that push,
his believing in me that made me make Preppy Kitchen up.
That's crazy. Now, did you do it before you got to Connecticut?
Yeah. So we were making things like in Los Angeles, and I had the YouTube channel started when I was in Los Angeles still too. So if you go back to those old videos, you'll see the old LA kitchen, and then we moved to Connecticut, and it changes. But it's been like quite a journey. And like I started the YouTube channel because I was making these recipes and like I shared them on Instagram and everywhere else. And people were like, show me how to make this recipe. Like,
exactly now.
Yeah, and not all of us can like, I understand, like, not everyone can just read a recipe and it makes sense. They want like someone there with you in the kitchen. So I started the YouTube channel just to like answer all those questions that I knew people were having about these recipes. And it's like a different format. It's longer, like just like a podcast. And you could really just go off on a tangent or like say like, we're making this, but let me just talk about this mixing part for a second, because if you do this, it's going to be gummy and dense, and like you could like walk people through potential mistakes and have more of a connection, and like just talk about food.
But it's like a freedom I feel like you have. You just have this freedom with YouTube that you can just go off on a tangent. And the thing about it is that someone out there has this question.
Yeah.
And it feels like freedom. It really sounds amazing. Did you know that the response is going to be the way it has and gone crazy like this?
I mean, not at all. I'm so shocked.
Like, talk to me really quickly about how you got encouraged by your husband. You start to actually do this. And what was that like when you were like, wait, think this is a thing?
I remember like I had this video, and like my old videos are so bad. So bad.
Yeah, of course.
And it got like, I think like 500 or 5,000 views or something. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Oh
like
my God.
People are seeing something I made. And I got better at like, I have an art degree, but it didn't help me with food photography. It was like conceptual art.
Right.
So, like totally not useless, but like there's not the training I needed. So I taught myself how to like take videos of food, take photos of food, how to like, share my thoughts about food and write recipes in a way that's really concise and helpful. And
Right.
people like started to trust me because like when people return back to a restaurant or to a blog or wherever else, it's because they trust you and they're excited to see what's next.
Yeah.
And I developed that relationship, and it's something I'm so excited about, to be honest, for the book tour. Cause like I am virtually present in a lot of people's kitchens, and like a lot of parents co-watch the YouTube channel with their kids because it's like,
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
I love it.
This is great.
Kids love like seeing things being made, and the kitchen is like, it's very interesting. So I just saw an Instagram comment on a video I put up, and this mom was like, "Oh, my daughter and I were going to be at your Houston event." I think it was that. And it's like, I can't wait to see you. I was like, I can't wait to see you. I never get to see anybody.
Yeah.
So it's like a moment to like
good.
say hello in person.
Make that in-person connection and kind of like get to love on your fans in person.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so great to be able to see that, because virtually you're in your, you know, you're doing it yourself, but you're touching all these people, and it's.
I don't even go outside very much. Like I'm like in the house, I'm on the farm, like doing work, and like the town we live in doesn't even have a light. There's like one stop sign, so it's like
no way.
There's not like, and everyone knows you there, but it's because everyone knows everybody. So it's not like, you know, it's like I'm excited to go and meet people who are passionate about food and say hello.
Now let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the Preppy Kitchen's tour. Okay, how many cities and when does it start?
Oh my gosh. So it starts October 4th when the book rolls out, and it's going to be, oh my gosh, test my recall, which is very poor. So we're going to do something in 2 events in Connecticut, New York City, New Jersey, Atlanta, Charlotte, South Carolina, Los Angeles, Chicago, and I think Houston.
Amazing.
Or Dallas. I keep getting the mixed up because that's changed.
But Texas. We'll say
it's
Texas.
all on preppykitchen.com, and you can see the book tour and like sign up to get tickets and things like that.
Now talk to me about the inspiration on this beautiful cookbook. Oh my God, the photography is great.
Thank you. I always wanted to make a cookbook, but I never thought it would be possible. It's like one of those dreams you have. Like, it's huge. Like, I grew up in a household full of books, and my dad had like thousands of history books. My mom had hundreds of cookbooks, and I never imagined like I would have one. But because it's so special to have this tangible thing out in the real world, I wanted to tell a story that I thought was important, not just like another compendium of recipes. And when our family moved from Los Angeles to Connecticut, and we've really like lived in these quintessential seasons and had our life completely affected by the weather and the holidays and everything else, I knew like that was part of the story I wanted to tell. So I arranged the book's chapters by the season. So in the spring, you're going to find those recipes with fresh ingredients out of your garden that are in season at the market, and also that fit the vibe of the season. Because like in the spring and summer, we're out and about. I want to eat al fresco. I want to be having a picnic, doing some grilling, enjoying like beautiful stone fruit that comes once a year. But in the winter, I'm snuggled up by the fire. I like buy some bubbling, spicy apple situation, and I want different things. Like sometimes I'll have a cacio e pepe, like no matter what. But you want to have food that fits what's available, and also that fits the vibe of the season and the moments that you're celebrating.
You don't want to have an ice cold slice of watermelon Christmas morning.
No, because that watermelon's going to be gross. Unfortunately, it's going to be good. And you like, it's over 100 like totally new recipes, so nothing is like taken from the blog or YouTube or anywhere else.
Oh, that's great.
And I also included some like fun projects to do with your family or by yourself or with the kids, like things like, it's the wintertime. Want to make a wreath? Let me show you how. Or do you want to plant a vegetable garden? Let's talk about that. And if you have like a little planter out in your balcony or your window or a full garden, this is kind of like how you're going to approach that.
Where is the book available? You
can find it on Amazon, Target. It's going to be at Costco, a lot of independent booksellers, and almost anywhere books are sold. So it's been really exciting to see who's picked it up to sell.
This is great. Now, you start on October 4th, basically a 10-city tour coming to a city near you. Now, what about the twins? Who's watching the twins on this tour? Where the twins at?
Guess who's coming with us?
Yay! The boys.
The boys are coming with us. So they're going to get to see all these new cities. And, you know, in LA, we're going to be there for a few days. So we'll stay at my mom's house and we'll get to visit her.
Oh, my gosh. I know she's going to love that.
It's going to be like really special. And it's like, the book is about family, so of course I'd want to
bring them,
to have my family with me for it.
So guys, the name of the book is Preppy Kitchen. Go out and get it. It is beautiful. John is not only an amazing food expert, he just has a great sense of love for food, and I think it's a beautiful read and needs to be in everyone's kitchen cabinet. Okay?
Thank you.
Not playing with you. Go get this book. So we're going to go to our speed round really quick before I ask you the big question of the day. So these are one or the other, and you have to pick one. Okay? Ready?
Yes.
Salty or sweet?
Salty.
Soup or stew?
Soup.
We're marking this all down. This is going under John.
Okay. Permanent record.
John's list. Smoothie or pressed juice?
Smoothie.
Wrap or sandwich?
Sandwich.
Now, this is for your tour. Room service or would you eat in a restaurant?
Oh, I would eat in a restaurant. Sample some of those local goodies.
Exactly. Fish or grilled steak?
Fish.
Sauteed fish or grilled steak? Fish. Pierogies or Irish stew?
Ooh. I'll go Irish stew.
Red or white wine?
What season is it?
Ooh, I know.
I'm a seasonal.
I know. Okay. So today, which is the summer, it's the end of summer.
Indian summer.
Towards September.
I'm going to have a nice Chardonnay, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Nice chili. Potato salad or mashed potatoes?
Mashed potatoes. Unless it's my mom's recipe.
Would you? I want to go.
Which has apples
I need to get
and
your
eggs
mom's
in it.
Address. I'm about to find out your mom's address and end up on her porch.
She loves visitors, so she'll take you up on that offer.
Oh, God. I love this. Hike or go for a run?
Hike.
Fried chicken or hamburgers?
Fried chicken.
Pineapples or mangoes?
Oh, the queen of fruits, mangoes, in season.
In season, exactly.
Not those cardboard
Cilantro,
ones.
right? Oh God. This is one that's tough for me.
The answer is cilantro.
It might be. Okay, good. Because I was going to say Italian parsley or cilantro.
Yeah. I mean, I grow both in the garden, but I love cilantro and everything. I'm not a soap taster. My husband is.
Oh, really? Did people think that it tastes like? And I don't get that. I love cilantro. I can eat
it. This is speed round. I have to tell you this anyways. I did an experiment with my class in middle school, and it's a tasting test. You have like these little strips with a chemical on them, and they taste them, and everybody, depending on your genetic makeup, tastes something different. So some people, for a chemical, could taste it salty, sweet, or nothing. Some people taste nothing or salty. It's crazy. So it really is, people taste things differently.
Wow. I guess that's true with a lot of things, like what is blue, or sometimes in colors, people do something similar. Poke or sushi?
Sushi if it's good. Poke if I'm in Hawaii.
Yeah, only. That's me too. Tofu or tempeh?
Tofu.
Cheese plate or dessert?
I'll go with cheese plate, but only because I've been thinking about France.
You definitely have some French fans. You got to get over there. And finally, I have to ask you, if today I told you tomorrow you will be losing your taste buds for 20 years.
Oh, no.
I know. Devastating. What would you eat today and why? 3, that's a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What would you have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
I would have the
last meals for the next 20 years.
Breakfast, orange pecan cinnamon rolls. That's in the book, and I've been making it this week. So it's like a eat a whole tray, no regret situation. Okay, and then for lunch,
I need that book.
Gosh, I would have. So for lunch, we're going to my mom's house, and she's making one of her simple meals, where it's like something she's thrown together with a lot of things from her garden. So she would have like a salad, maybe some pasta situation. And it would be simple, but spectacular and memorable. She visited us a few weeks ago, and she made some of her lunches, and I was just like, oh, why is this so good?
Why is it so good? And the consistency. Yeah. We love a mom's consistency.
True.
She can transcend you back to 1980 if she wanted to. She's like, taste this, and you're like a child.
Oh, and then for for dinner, which has a dessert, she's making me, I request this oftentimes on my birthday. They're little fillets of sole that are wrapped around this beautiful concoction of like wilted spinach. There's like onions, there's shallots and garlic and like a cheesy sauce all together. So it's wrapped in that and then covered with like a cheesy wine sauce. And it's served with like a beautiful herbed rice and a fresh salad. That is like, oh my gosh, one of my ideas of heaven.
The filet of sole of the best. Oh my God. It's velvety.
Yes. It's also seasonal.
Also seasonal.
And
what would be that dessert?
I am going for a tiramisu. I love a creamy, boozy moment. So,
is it one in particular that you would say I would love or I remember, or would you make this one?
Oh, I would make this one. I always pour like a little bit of extra into that coffee mixture.
Well, you're the first guest, and I think that being a chef, I thought that was beautiful what you just said, is that you would make it. It's almost like this beautiful moment, like I'm going to make the tiramisu, and this would be the last thing I taste.
Yeah.
That I handcrafted for 20 years.
That's the moment that you can
That
remember.
Is crazy.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to lose my taste buds. That's not going to happen.
Never. That's the worst for people like us.
I know.
You know what I mean? Oh, my gosh. But I would love to talk to you forever, but we are butt up against time. And I just want to come see the farm. I'm so pissed. I want to be on the farm. Actually, if you guys are going to be having any more children, I know a wonderful post-40-year-old that would love to be adopted by you.
Oh, perfect.
She's great. She's great.
Well, I hope
she can cook too.
Oh, good. It's a double plus good. I hope I get to see you in Los Angeles, and thank you so much for having me. I'd love to talk more about food all day, every day with you.
Oh my God, I would love to come. I'm going to chime in on one of your YouTubes and send some comments. I want to talk about it. Let me ask you this, just for the fans that are here in LA. We want to plug that book one more time. It's the Preppy Kitchen. He will be here in person to sign my book at the Grove, October 11th. Do we have a time on that, John?
7 p.m. And it's a ticketed event, so just grab a ticket so you can come on over.
Yes, I will be there with bells on, and I want everybody listening to this podcast to come and check it out.
Come see me. Say hi.
Come say hi, get a great book, and get inspired in your kitchen.
Oh, thank you.
And on that note, I want to say thank you so much for doing this. Give a big kiss to the boys for me.
I will. And I miss you
your
already.
Husband.
Don't go.
I know. I miss you already. I want to cook with the boys. We have things to do in the future. So
I love this. Okay.
We'll talk about that offline. Well, thank you so much. My name is Chef Elisa Reynolds. This has been John Kanell, and this is My Last Meal Podcast. We are out, and always in departing, peace and chicken grease. Thank you guys for listening. And if you can't stand the thought of not hearing me until next Friday, follow us on the Instagram at My Last Meal Pod, or check me out at My 2 Cents LA. Until next Friday, peace and chicken grease.
That's crazy though. That last meal.